Alright, I want to talk a bit about the Electrolux EWD1477, which is a pretty old washing machine, and it was one of the first combo washer dryers. So they basically took two different units and put it in one. Now, although it works pretty well in general as a concept, unfortunately there's a few problems with this machine, and you probably know about them if you've had one for a few years. And so in the start of this video I'm going to show you what I think is the biggest problem and how you might go about preventing it or even fixing it. And I'm also going to show you some of the other things that get dirty and clogged up and generally need to be checked, say at least every once or twice a year maybe. So as you can see, I've been pulling this apart and I've obviously disconnected the electricity. That's just sensible. Don't need to disconnect the water, of course. So basically around the back here I'll just show you how generally the heating and drying part of it works. So around the right here we've got this big set of solenoids down here. Now they're the ones that distribute the water into the massive set of filling ports where you put your softener and detergents and stuff. So they go over here, and I've actually found that this also clogs up too, but I'll talk about that later. Anyway, the water eventually flows down with any chemicals you've added and flows into the drum here, as you can see. And so yeah, this is the main rotating part of the drum and the motor underneath. Anyway, something you won't see in a normal washing machine is this huge, really long metal duct here. Now what that is that's actually holding an air heater, so just a couple of big huge resistive elements that get really hot, maybe even glowing red hot, I'm not sure, and they heat the air which gets pumped around the system by this here. Now this is the fan blower assembly, I guess you'd call it. So what we have here is we've got a little motor with a little cooling fan on it, and it turns the little drive belt at the top here. Now inside this white thing here is what is arguably the biggest problem with this whole machine. Now I've had this machine for 6 years now. I paid about $1,400 for it, and within the first 4 years it actually broke several times. The motor down here that drives the main drum actually failed. I'm not sure why. The technician who replaced it thought it was the winding might have blown, which I thought was a little bit strange. But the other two times I had to get technicians out to fix this while it was under warranty was because of the same sort of ridiculous problem that kept happening with the fan assembly here. Now inside here, I don't have it open at the moment, but I do have some pictures of it that I'll probably add to the video. There's basically just a big vane fan that spins, and it creates a vacuum down the bottom up here, and it pressurizes this heating area up here. So you get air flying up through it and back into the main drum through the top there. Now the problem with this is it gets really hot while it operates, because it's continuously circulating this really hot dry air, and that's really not good for you know, metal bearings that have moving metal parts in them. So after a couple of years, the grease in there either sort of starts spreading into the wrong areas of the bearing, or it generally just seizes the bearing, probably because of the really high heat. I reckon that it gets to at least about 80 degrees centigrade or more, and that's just not good for a bearing. So what happens is it seizes, and then that's really bad, because then this fairly powerful 75 watt motor starts slipping over here, and you can actually burn out this motor as well. Now that didn't happen for me, but basically when the technicians come out to fix this problem, what they'll do is they'll replace this entire white part here. So they'll disconnect it from the heating duct, they'll disconnect it from the motor, and they just throw a whole new one of these on because like a 50-cent bearing has failed. So now I'll just quickly cut in a video, and it's just going to show you how this actually functions. So what happens is while it's heating the air up inside the unit to dry your clothes, there's nowhere for the hot air to go like in a normal washer dryer machine. So what they've decided to do to fit all this equipment into one unit and still get it working is it actually uses the water inlet to cool the hot air back down and recondense the moisture from the clothes, and then that goes out in the drain pipe, so up into your sink. Now it's not as efficient as just using a heating element and a fan like in any $100 clothes dryer, but basically it still works pretty well. And what happens is one of these solenoids over here, I think it's this middle one, yeah, it's the middle one. The middle one pumps water down up through here, and then it goes down this long plastic channel that runs right across the back of the machine. I don't actually know what the flow rate is, but it's probably about 1 litre per minute, just really roughly guessing. And what happens is it flows down here, and it sort of spins in this big, like a toroid down here, because you got this vacuum of air that's flowing up into the blower fan inlet. And basically what that's doing is it's cooling down the air really rapidly, so it condenses out the moisture from the clothes, and then somehow it manages, maybe by design or maybe using some smart electronics, just the rate at which it pumps it out. And it does work pretty well, but there's some other problems. So now I'll just cut in a video and just showing you how it does that, that cooling action. Alright, so that was how it cools, and it's kind of amusing to watch when it's running with the case off. But back to the fan up here, which like I said is the biggest problem. Basically, to fix it, instead of replacing this whole thing again, buying a new one, waiting for 2 weeks for someone on eBay or maybe even Electrolux to send me a replacement, all I did was crack open the top and the bottom of the white case with a screwdriver, which is pretty brutal, but oh well. And when you get it split in half, you can clean out any crap that's accumulated on the fan blades itself, but also when you take off this top bit, you'll be able to see the bearing, like literally right under this little bit that holds the belt. Now when you can see the bearing, obviously you could apply some oil to it, like some light machine oil. You could grease it if you want, but generally the grease isn't going to go into the bearing when the bearing's closed and installed in something. So instead what I did is I got some light machine oil. This stuff is Pressol do-it-yourself oil. It was literally $2 at a hardware store, amongst another bunch of $2 light machine oils that are like pretty good for this kind of repair. And basically what I did is, while this white cap was off, re-lubricated the bearing and then just spun the shaft a couple of times, and almost instantly it had gone from 100% seized, so that you couldn't turn it at all, to rotating like basically how it should when it's brand new. And so yeah, I think that's a little bit more efficient and a little bit better for me, not having to wait 2 weeks for an entire replacement blower like the Electrolux technicians would have probably done. So then I got thinking, if I'm going to do this every 6 months, like re-lubricate this bearing, it's a huge pain in the ass to pull the whole back of the unit off. Like, you've got to drag it out from wherever you had it set up, and then you've got to undo all these stupid screws on the side and the top and the bottom. And you can see I've had some fun here because I've got all these markings, because I actually took out a few more things I'll talk about later on and clean them up. But basically I thought, why can't you just drill a little access hole in the top of the plastic cover of the machine, and then you can literally just you get this little thing, and just like, while it's all enclosed, just drip some light machine oil down. So what I ended up doing, you can see that in the middle next to where the nut is, I've just left the washer off, which didn't really do that much, and I've drilled a hole. It's about probably 4 millimeters wide, and it just drops through this plastic little thing that holds the belt, and basically it's like an access port for the oil. And then what I'm going to do is, for the top cover of the machine, the plastic cover that you have on when it's all set up running normally, I'm just going to drill another little tiny 4 mil hole, and or maybe a centimeter, I don't know, whatever's easiest, right above this. And then every 6 months or every year, I'll just set up a calendar notice, just oil the thing, and it will just be like, take whatever crap's off the top of the washing machine and put like 1 or 2 drops of this oil in there, and I think that will be good enough to keep the bearing going for quite a while, but it probably needs to be replaced at some stage, arguably the whole machine. Now another thing you notice is the purple zip ties I've got on here, obviously not stock standard from the machine. The thing is, if you crack this white fan open, you can't reseal it because there's no O-ring. It's just like a molded bit of plastic that's fused into another bit of molded bit of plastic. So what I was thinking was that in the worst case, I'd like get one of those really high temperature hot glue gun glues, the kind that don't really melt to about 200, or even like something like super glue, and reseal the whole edge. But what I found was when you close the two parts back together, it actually almost perfectly air seals anyway, because of the weird way they've done the rim on it, which you'd see if you had yours open. So what I decided to do is just basically put a set of zip ties around it to just put a bit of pressure on it, holding it closed, and it works really well. I mean, I don't think it's ever going to like break or anything. It's like really sturdy. And besides, when you get it all screwed back in how it should be, it's actually, it's not going to go anywhere at all. You could probably rest your whole body weight on top of that white bit.